Do I offer real estate coaching? Well, guys, I've gotten that for quite some time, and I finally have an answer for you guys. What's up, guys? It's Casey McKeown back again with another video this week. And with the market slowing down, not just in my local market in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but really across the country, large in part due to inflation, as we all know, as well as overly ridiculously high interest rates compared to what we are used to. I think at the end of last week, we were getting quoted close to 7% on an FHA loan. But with everything, guys, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We are not anywhere near that light right now. Obviously, interest rates, I assume, are going to continue to rise. But with all the free time that I've had because of the market slowing down, I decided to post an AMA or a Q&A on a real estate investment forum. And I got a ton of questions, and I went ahead and responded to nearly all of them. Most of you guys are not on that Facebook group, so I wanted to go ahead and show you the questions that I was asked, as well as give you the answers that I responded with. So the first question that I got was, what's your why? So I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a backstory here and kind of what led me to real estate. Now, rewinding about 6 years ago, I had a relationship end after I already decided to move post-graduate school to a city of San Antonio for a coaching and teaching job, just coaching wrestling and teaching high school. In the state of Texas, you basically, as a male coach, have to coach football, almost inevitably. Me personally, I don't have any experience in football outside of watching the NFL and college football on every single weekend, so I really wanted to find a job that was just coaching wrestling, also so the summers I could basically go home and spend the summers with that significant other. Now, I can tell you, I made that decision, and a week later, she decided to end the relationship. So that entire year, I basically had all the time to myself. That's why I devoted all of my time towards reading books, watching podcasts, jumping over to real estate investment opportunities and meet and greets and so on and so forth, just taking in as much knowledge as I possibly can. Because I can tell you, I have a mom that's in her 60s, and unfortunately, I think probably for almost the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years, I've been asking her when she's gonna retire. And as a teacher myself, I just assumed that she retired in your 60s. Well, watching my mom not retire in her early 60s and not even having an idea, almost pushing her mid 60s when she's gonna retire, kind of opened my eyes to saying, hey, Casey, is this something you wanna be doing for the next 40 years of your life? Honestly, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and real estate and just investing as an opportunity in general fell into my lap. Now, in addition to that, watching my mom work for 40 years, bust her butt, coaching 4 different sports at the middle school level, I also knew that I loved the fact that my mom was around. I love my dad as well. He just oftentimes was making income, oftentimes out of the country. But I knew if I was gonna have a family, I wanted to be there for my family. Similar to how my mom was, that's why I went the teaching route. So as far as my why, I really wanted to put a ton of time and effort into my life now and hustle and grind until I got to the point where I was financially set to have a child or have a family and know that I was actually gonna be there for my family. So moving on to the next question, I got asked, working on my real estate license right now on active duty, figured I could do it part-time and have access to a lot of newcomers. Any tips for doing real estate on the side? Well, first things first, guys, I actually did exactly this. Now, I wasn't active duty in the military, but I was coaching and teaching full-time. Moved to Dallas in 2017, got my real estate license, and really did real estate on the side. If you're actually some of my past students and some of my past athletes, you also know I was oftentimes on my phone while I was working. A lot of the time I was on my phone while working because I was trying to text or get back to clients while I was still teaching. It's not my proudest moment, but I was trying to hustle as hard as I could in real estate to get out of teaching. Not that I didn't love teaching, I just knew where my true passion lied, and that was in real estate. So my suggestion for folks that are getting into real estate part-time, which is honestly my suggestion, unless you've got some kind of sweet hookup and you're jumping in full-time, that's how a lot of real estate agents fail. But I would start devoting a ton of time towards social media. We're talking TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, any kind of social platform where you can grow an audience, grow a network, start to meet people, and just start to show people what you're doing in your daily life. All right, the next question, where do I start? I love real estate, but I'm unsure of the first step. So honestly, guys, this is a problem that a lot of people get into. They think that, it's just such a huge hurdle to get over that they honestly don't even start. I can tell you the easiest step is to buy a house. A lot of people, looking into buying their first house, they're like, well, that's not getting into real estate investing. I'm just buying a house and spending money every single month on a mortgage. Now, if you do it and do it in a intelligent way. For instance, if you use your VA loan and you house hack a multifamily, or if you're not a veteran and you buy a single family house and you rent out the other rooms. There's a lot of sacrifices that have to be made when it comes to investing, but if you're willing to make the sacrifice now, I can guarantee you it's gonna pay off long term. Now, as far as tips to get the ball rolling, you're gonna have to have a solid W-2 job. Like if you just quit your sweet W-2 job for this really, really high paying commission job, you just screwed yourself over. You're not gonna be able to buy a house for a couple years. Now, because of that commission, you're gonna have to have a couple years history of that commission for it to actually count for you to qualify for a mortgage. I actually have a client that did just this. He moved his family to Texas, and now he's gonna be stuck renting for a couple years until he builds up his income enough with that commission to be able to qualify for a mortgage. So I would say a solid W-2 job, a good credit score is gonna be your sweetest entry point to investing in real estate, and that is by doing your own home first. Now, the next question I got is a question that I feel like is a very simple question to answer. Did you start an LLC? If not, have you considered? If you did start an LLC, when did you decide to start that process? Now, first things first, my trajectory in terms of my real estate portfolio started with a VA loan first, which is a primary residence. I then used my conventional loan and moved into that house, another primary residence. And then I moved into another quadplex or multifamily with my VA loan, again, occupying that as well. So those are 3 properties that I occupied initially, and if you're buying a property and occupying it yourself, you're not going to do that with an LLC. It's going to be in your personal name. So the answer to your question is I did not start with an LLC initially. I do have an LLC, and there are a couple properties, including the one that I'm filming this in, that are owned by an entity or an LLC. But I can also tell you there's a handful of other properties that I do own that are not owned by an LLC. Now, it is a very quick and easy process if you do own an LLC to be able to deed transfer that over to the LLC. Now, there are some complications with that if they do have a due on clause sale, which basically says if you deed the property over to another owner or an entity, they could technically ask that the mortgage be due, and then your LLC is going to have to qualify for that. But the amount of times that you actually see that is very few and far between. The biggest thing with mortgage companies is, are they receiving the mortgage payment every single month? And if they're receiving the mortgage payment every single month, they're not going to be really seeking anything against you. Now, as far as a liability standpoint, yes, eventually you want to get all of your properties into an LLC, but I would not say it's priority number 1, especially if you're buying property after property as a primary residence. For instance, my first property, I bought a duplex, occupied it, moved out in 5 months. If I had to refinance that, let's say if I tried to deed that over to an LLC and there was a due on clause sale that was then actually admitted, then I would have to have at least 20 to 25% equity in that duplex. And again, I used my VA loan just 5 months ago at a 0% down payment option, so could guarantee you that in 5 or 6 months I'd be kind of screwed if I did de-transfer that over and they did require me to refinance that in an LLC's name. And the next question that I got, guys, was congratulations. What do you currently have in your portfolio? And are you focused on single family rentals, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, or multifamilies? Now, again, this is going to be probably a repeated question if you follow my channel because I've detailed my portfolio a handful of times, but if you are new here, I went from a duplex to a conventional single family to a quadplex to a primary house with a built-in Airbnb. After that, I went ahead and basically tried the BRRRR method. After that, I then also tried the essentially BRRRR method again, but it was more or less just a cheaper single family rental. So at that time I had 6 properties, and then I decided to upgrade. So I sold my duplex and bought an actual broken bow cabin up in Oklahoma. Currently speaking, we are in the framing, almost done with framing stage now. So I got rid of a multifamily to basically leverage myself further with the equity that I built in that duplex to then go buy a more expensive property or a single family cabin that I'm going to be using as a short-term rental. And my quadplex, I went ahead and sold for this commercial building. So I basically upgraded from a 4-unit residential fourplex to a 4-unit office space, more commercial building. And then on top of that, most recently, I am under contract for a new build I'm going to be using as a short-term rental in Florida. So with all that being said, I've got about $5 million in real estate that I have owned. 2 of them are long-term rentals. I do have my primary residence, which has an Airbnb in it. I have my commercial 4-unit office space, which is where I film my content in. I've got my short-term rental cabin up in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. And I've got my short-term, soon-to-come rental in Florida. Now, the next question can actually tie into the end of that last question, and it was asking, is that $5 million with or without loans? Now, I can tell you, If I went the Dave Ramsey style and kind of tried to pay cash for everything, I may have one property, maybe two if I was lucky. So I'm a huge advocate of leveraging my time to really put forth towards stuff that makes sense financially and, my hourly rate. I'm probably not going to be mowing my backyard. That's honestly why I also got turf, but I'm not going to be doing stuff that I could pay someone else to do for a much cheaper hourly rate than what I get. There's obviously a building point to that, but I'm leveraging my time, I'm leveraging other people's time, I'm leveraging loans, I'm leveraging as much as I can, and that's probably my favorite word, understanding when it makes sense to leverage, because at the end of the day, I would have a very small portfolio if all I did was pay cash. All right, let's jump into the next question, which I think a lot of people on my YouTube channel may be feeling this, so this could be definitely relatable in your sense. The individual asked, when you took your first leap of faith, looking back now, is there something specific you tell first-time buyers? I'm an overthinker and tend to believe I need to be ready, but are you ever really ready? I can tell you, I was someone that was more of a risk taker, I guess you could say. I was the one that spent that entire year in San Antonio prior to moving to Dallas, really educating myself, reading as many books as I can, listening to as many podcasts as I could. And to be honest with you guys, I had 3, maybe 4 houses under contract in San Antonio. Now, lesson learned, guys, around December, January, teaching and coaching in San Antonio, I was basically told by my principal I was not going to be offered rehirement. It was a kind way of basically letting me go, but allowing me to finish off that year of teaching. As far as lessons learned, guys, your lender is going to call your employer and make sure that you're going to actually have the ability to continue to be employed, basically. So when I went under contract, I think maybe in February or March, April timeframe, the multitude of times I did, it wasn't until I got that last home under contract. It was a duplex around the north central area of San Antonio. It was going to be my first property. I'm using a VA loan, and to be honest with you, I had an agent that didn't know what he was doing, which wasted a lot of money and time. We're talking inspections and option periods for 3 or 4 homes, which wound up being a couple $1,000s at the end of the day that I just threw away. But regarding that property, because I was not offered rehirement as a teacher and coach in San Antonio, they did basically a last minute call for verification of employment. And that's when the employment center or whatnot basically said, oh yeah, he's finishing off this year and we're not offering rehirement. And at that point, I got denied my mortgage when I was just about to close on my first property. So when it comes to being ready, I was overly ready by the time I got to Dallas. I actually put a house or a duplex under contract within the first 45 days of being in Dallas. And I can tell you, I'm so thankful I did, because that duplex is the duplex that I wound up selling and having $300,000 in equity to apply to my next investment just 5 years later. Now, the next question we're going to jump into, guys, is a question that I get, and I feel like far too often. And for the past couple years building this YouTube channel, it's been a hard no. But the next question I've got is, hey, do you offer any kind of coaching, real estate coaching, so on and so forth? And I can tell you guys, I finally have an answer for that. I'm going to say, and I have been saying over the last couple years, a hard no. But with the market changing and everything kind of slowing down, I'm certainly having a lot more time on my hands where real estate coaching may be an option. It's more or less going to be and going to dictate off of your guys' responses whether or not that's something you guys are interested in. And it would take some time. It's obviously going to take me some time to build up enough content off of this platform to be able to, what I feel like, provide you guys with enough coaching content where it makes sense, whether it be, I'm billing you weekly, monthly, or one-time fee. I'm not just someone that's going to say, oh yeah, I offer coaching, hey, $50 a call, give me a call, talk to 10 minutes, and then never hear from me again. It's going to be a much more hands-on coaching opportunity, and I would say definitely yes in the near future, but it's something that I have to kind of build out. And if I get enough interest in it, it's something I definitely, at this point in my time, could certainly entertain. So if you are someone that has watched this channel and would definitely be interested in one-on-one coaching, make sure to leave a comment down in the comment section below. I would love to kind of get some feedback from you guys. If it's not something that you're interested in, don't worry. I'm just not going to devote my time and effort into something that I'm not going to get any response from. Now, the next question I got was, what books, if any, assisted you on your journey? Now, I can tell you, if you rewind back to where I really first got started in real estate, I hadn't read a book in over a decade. Now, the next question I'm going to Now, the next question is the last question I'm gonna end this video on, just so this doesn't go on and on forever. And this question, honestly, guys, is something that a lot of you may be feeling right now. And the question is simple: would you buy and are you buying in the given market today? The quick answer to that is an absolutely yes. Now, there is a lot more to it, but I can tell you I am buying a short-term rental in the North Orlando area of Florida. It's closing in December, and I technically haven't even locked my rate in, which is kind of the nervous part right now, with rates climbing to a little over 7% now. I obviously have an investment property there, so it's probably even higher than 7%, but that's TBD. Again, I haven't locked in my rate. But what I can tell you is, from a landlord's perspective, rent is going up. Rent is going up because values have gone up significantly. And in the state of Texas, values go up, so does your taxes. When your taxes go up, my mortgage goes up. Well, if my mortgage goes up, I'm gonna essentially cash flow less. Why am I cash flowing less? Because values have gone up and taxes have gone up, insurance has gone up. So what am I going to lay that down on? I'm gonna lay that down on my tenants. I'm gonna increase the rent of my properties so my tenants can continue to essentially allow me to cash flow. As you've seen probably in any given market, especially I know New York is an absolutely insane one, or an example to give, because with everything that's happened in the last couple of years and the huge exodus outside of New York, and then all of the people coming back, rent is absolutely insane in New York. It's not even affordable. I do have one example alone. One of my good friends actually has a friend in New York City where the rent, we're not talking total, we're talking their rent increase for a month of rent went up $2,000. Imagine if your rent, I mean, my mortgage alone is $3,500, okay? So if my mortgage just randomly went up $2,000, I mean, I could stomach it, but it wouldn't be enjoyable, okay? And most people cannot stomach a $2,000 a month increase. That's almost $25,000 a year in additional rent. So they had to find a different place and kind of move further out from the city. Renting is never something that I truly advise people to do. Now, there are case-by-case scenarios, like if you're gonna be moving somewhere for a year and you're gonna be living there for a year, and then knowing you're essentially gonna be moving away, I probably wouldn't buy. Now, what does make sense is if you are renting right now and basically throwing away your money, and you want to purchase something and wanting to purchase something for at least 3 years. I would say in the last couple years, you could purchase something for 6 months or purchase something for a year and still turn around and sell it and be fine. With the kind of slowing down of the market, I would make sure that anything you do purchase is gonna be at least a 3 to 4 year purchase. For me, most of what I purchase is going to be a lifelong purchase, and by lifelong purchase, I mean either I'm gonna hold it for forever or I'm gonna sell it and upgrade and use a 1031 exchange. So really, I'm still holding on to the property or the property's profits for a tax-deferred option to upgrade to a larger property. So the short answer there is yes, I'm buying, and I would highly suggest that you still buy, but just do so intelligently. Now, that isn't all the questions, guys, but I'm not gonna make this a 30 or 40-minute YouTube video. So for you guys that maybe those questions didn't necessarily hit a question you may have, please leave them down in the comment section below. I get back to nearly every single comment. If you do have more personalized comments, make sure to shoot me an email or follow me on Instagram and hit me up in the DMs. Again, I get back to just about every single person that reaches out to me, and if I don't, I sincerely apologize, but for the most part, I get back with everyone. So again, comment section down below or hit me up via my email or Instagram, which is in the description below. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys. It really does help, and stay tuned for the next video.